We're going to be discussing how to properly price educate your customer, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Welcome back to the daily edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here now every day, discussing all things pest. Hey, welcome. Hey, we're going to be discussing how to properly price educate a customer. A lot of us come from the service side of this industry. We're great technicians. We do great at our customers love us. You know, they trust us. They believe in us. And we decide to go into business, or we decide to switch careers within the industry into the sales part. And a lot of the training that I see in sales training, it's really poor. A lot of the sales training is focused on just competing and beating out the other price that you have, matching the invoice, matching the contract, matching the pricing in the market. Very few people have previous sales experience when they are entering into this market. Most of the time, the sales experience you have is you're quoting add-on services to existing clients. You're doing very little new clients because you're on a route. I mean, initially you probably do, and you know, people tell you have to, you know, if you lose a customer, you're with a company XYZ, and if you lose a customer on that route, you have to replace them yourself. The salespeople don't replace them. So, but what I see is a lot of bad training on sales, and I come from a sales background. So in case you are new to listening to this podcast, my background is originally in IT, and then I transitioned to sales, and I've been in sales probably about 30 years. Altogether, about 30 years, I've been in customer service and sales management, and I've taken a lot of sales training, a lot of it good, a lot of it bad. I remember popping in tapes to a cassette deck into my car when I first got into sales, and listening to Zig Ziglar, listening to later on in my career, listening to Tony Robbins. But I've heard thousands and thousands of tapes, literally, on sales and sales training. I've been in sales organizations where we focused on nothing but sales and sales training. And later in my career, I've been a national sales manager, a regional sales manager, regional sales rep, national sales. I've been in wholesale. I've been in retail. I've been in contract, just selling contracts. We didn't sell a product. We sold a contract. I've been in B2B. B2C. We haven't done a whole lot of online selling. This is a new thing for me that we're going to be getting into, which is online selling in our company. And so my experience in dealing with customers, I've been selling since I was 16 years old, door to door. I started selling printing services. This lady a friend of ours had a business and says, you know, I need to get some sales, and, you know, if you're not doing anything, you know, you can go out and knock on doors and leave cards and get sales. And that was my launch into my sales career, was door-to-door sales with no sales training. I had none, any sales training. And those who most people are. They're given a price sheet. You know the business. You know how to perform the service. You know what you do, and you get pretty good at it. But when you're selling high-priced items, a lot of people sell in this industry are selling two things. They're selling fear because the customer is afraid of what they have. They're afraid of losing their home if they have termites. The customer is afraid of roaches. The customer is afraid of rodents. The customer is disgusted by having pests in their home. I've sold home improvements for a long time. I used to sell for a contractor that was was selling for a national retailer, and we sold windows, sidings, and decks, and we sold the most expensive deck on the market. We had, when we showed up We knew we were going to be the most expensive. We sold parquet decks at that time. Those were like the hottest thing. And most people were selling straight decks. We sold a parquet deck that was really decorative. And it was pricey. We sold triple pane windows when everybody was selling double pane windows. When they were selling argon gas, ours were vacuum sealed. Our siding was, when we compared side by side the mill of the siding that we used to sell, our siding was 2 times thicker and it had more PVC in it than most other brands at that time. So we sold the Bentley pretty much of the industry. And that's where I've always been. I've always wanted to go to sell the most expensive product in the industry. Why? And here's why I want to sell the best product in the industry, why my product should be on a copy of the Robb Report, okay? Because people that buy high-end services and high-end products have 3 things in common. The customer knows what they want. They want what you're selling. They're not in need of it, okay? Nobody needs a $98,000 Range Rover. Okay, you buy it because you want it. Nobody needs a Maserati. Nobody needs a $13,000 Breitling. When you buy these products is because you want them. You have 2 things. You can afford it and you're willing to pay for it. Those are the 3 things that you need in order to sell a product to a client. There has to be a need or a want. They have to be able to afford it. And a lot of people want a lot of things in this world they can't afford. They have to be able to afford it. And then there's a lot of people who can afford it, but are not willing to pay for it. Just because you have the money, the mistake that a lot of people make is I'm going to go sell to rich people because rich people have money. Well, the reason rich people have money is because they hold on to it. The Bible says that a fool and his money are easily parted. The person who is smart, who is intelligent, who is educated, who understands the value of making that great fortune because they're in the top 10 to the top 20%, are not just going to hand you over their money. They're not idiots. You have to have the value and your product has to have the prestige that they're looking for. They're buying prestige. They're buying something that most people can't afford. This is where I am at. This is why I decided to sell what I sell. Because I can sell quality. I can sell high-priced items. I know how to sell them. Okay, I know how to sell. When my competition is selling $500 a year services, we're getting anywhere between $1,300 to $2,500 a year from our clients. Why? Because we can prove the results. They've had 3 to 4 to 5 companies promising that they can solve that problem, and they can't. And what our customers are buying is luxury. Our customers are buying a lifestyle. Nobody needs 32 palm trees on their property that need care. Nobody needs 30,000 feet of lawn. You see, nobody needs an acre of lawn they want to have pristine. There's a difference between spraying a lawn and making that lawn look good. Okay? So properly pricing your service always begins at marketing. If your marketing looks cheap, if your marketing looks like everybody else's marketing in the same price range, people are educated on what they've paid in the past. There's a record. Okay? I've paid in the past for XYZ service, XYZ amount of money. And I've gotten pretty good results. I have 3 types of clients. One that wants me to solve the problem, wants me to solve it one time, and those that want us to continue to be there preventing that problem. And our job is to show the client why it is that sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. Because we can't control where that pest is coming from. In the case of lawn care, it's a luxury ticket item. You can go to any Home Depot, any Lowe's, any Ace, any big box store, anywhere, and buy lawn care products and do it yourself for a whole lot less than what we charge. The reality is that doctors and lawyers and corporate executives, and I seem to attract IT people that don't have time. They want somebody to do it for them. There's been price educated already on what they paid in the past. So when a client calls me on the phone, and this is the way it typically goes, I'm going to teach you what we go through in your sales process. You need a sales process because it begins in the marketing, but pricing, educating the client happens during the sales process. Okay. And if you don't do that correctly and you just quote a price without having the customer understand what it is that you're selling and why it costs what it costs, when you get to present the price on the close, all you're going to hear is, well, I got to think about it. I want to talk to my wife about it. And those are legitimate reasons. We do that all the time. We quote it out. People say, hey, 2 days later, they're calling us back, says, we want you to do it. I'm not one of those guys that is a hard closer. I don't put pressure on people. Like I said, we do our job. I do my job as a salesperson to present my product and my service professionally, accurately, without any shenanigans. And then you have to decide if this is what you want. And if it is what you want, you're a client. And if it isn't, well, you're not. There's nothing I can do about it. We sell a specific service to a specific demographics. We understand who our demographic is. We have clear who our client is. And that's another thing that most people in business have no clue of who their client is. They think that because, I'm going to sell in this neighborhood where people are rich, that's going to make them successful. If you don't know how to sell to that clientele, you're never going to get your foot in the door. So what you need to do is you need to have a sales process. And your sales process begins at marketing. It doesn't begin when the phone rings. What I asked a lot of people, what is your sales process for acquiring this type of client? And every type of client, if you're going after restaurants, that is one sales process that you have to go through. You start with your marketing. And what I mean by the sales process is, how are you filling your funnel with leads to go sell? If you're not filling your funnel with leads continuously, where the clients are calling and somebody is calling, wanting pricing, wanting a quote, wanting this, wanting that. If you're doing work, and then you're going into sales mode, and then you're doing work, you're always going to be where that funnel dries up. And sometimes that funnel dries up and you're like, how are we going to pay the bills? So your marketing has to be consistent. If you're targeting restaurants, then you need to have a process. In other words, I come from a strategic sales process mentality. So I see things differently. For me, a sales process would be this. We're going to put out 12 pieces of mail to all of the restaurants in this zip code. We're going to target all the restaurants in this zip code. We're going to send out 12 pieces of mail, one every month. We're going to follow it up by visiting every single one of those in that zip code once a month. We're going to get an email and a business card, and we're going to put them into our, point of sale system, and we're going to shoot them an email once a month. And we're going to do this, and then we're going to call them once a month, and we're going to talk to them. That is a marketing and sales process. See, a lot of people just want to put out 1,000 cards and think they're going to get a response. You're going to fail and you're going to fall flat on your face. Unless you're giving away the service, nobody's going to call you. And now you've had 4 contacts in a month. Here's the sales process and how you educate people on sales. You've had 4 contacts now in 1 month. Second month comes around, you're repeating the process. Now they've had 8. The average client needs between 7 and 13 contacts, touches, for them to even realize you're alive. That doesn't mean they're going to buy from you. That is the sales process. Now, it isn't when the phone rings. The sales process started months in advance. If you want to penetrate a market, this is the discipline you're going to have to penetrate a specific market. Let's say you're doing it with hotels. Let's say you're doing it with apartment buildings. Let's say you're doing it with car dealerships. Let's say you want to do boat yachts and pest control for yachts. This is the sales process. You have to have touches in between in different parts. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to have a successful marketing strategy. The message has to be cohesive. Now the phone rings. And this is how, probably for you and for me for sure, how it goes. Phone rings and says, ring, and we pick it up and thank you for calling. How may I help you? And they're like, I need you to let me know how much you charge to come and fumigate my house for roaches. All right, he just gave me a ton of information. One is, I need you to come out. I want you to come out. You got to listen to what they're saying, the vocabulary. There's a difference when somebody says verbally, I want something and I need something. What I've learned is people are going to buy what they want. They will not buy what they need. And I'm listening. And when you're telling me, I need you to come out and fumigate my house for roaches, that tells me volume. That means that every time they've had a roach, they've had somebody come out and spray. The first thing I ask is, have you been to my website? The client says, no, I just found you on Google. They don't know nothing about us. That's a lot more work than if a customer went to my website, hit the quote button because I want to quote because he read our stuff. And the customer has been more educated on what we do than the client just said, I found you on Google and I called the first person. They're either desperate or they're just lazy or they just want to get, they're just going through a list of people. And I listen to them. And I ask, okay, well, since you just found us on Google, tell me what you're having roaches you mentioned and you've had your house sprayed before. Yes. Okay. How long has it been? Well, it's been 2 years. I just moved into this house, whatever. All right, cool. Where are you located? Because if the client is, on our website and he saw the information, they know they want what we sell. But if the client is outside of our service range, we have to be honest with the client and says, listen, that's outside of our service range. And sometimes that price has a premium because we have to travel further. Look, it costs us the same thing to pay a guy to be sitting in our truck than to performing a service. The longer he's in that truck, we still got to pay him by the hour. At the end of the month, that truck costs what it costs, no matter how many clients we serve. We have to understand where the client is. So, okay, now, is this an apartment? And is this a house or a townhouse? Well, people have this thing about apartments. You got to understand, this is Miami. Somebody calls me from Brickell, and if you look up Brickell, these are not $1,000 a month apartments. These are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month apartments. Okay, you got to park 2 miles away and walk all your gear to that building to service it. There's a cost involved in serving that kind of client versus a suburban client who calls us for a house. So we got to know where that client is so we can price it correctly. We don't have a one size fits all. I have one price for apartments, I have one price for townhomes, and we have one price for a house because the difficulty of serving that client is much more higher in an apartment type of building because we can't control everything that's in that building. We have issues that we run up against. Where a single family home, I'd rather do a single family home that is 3,000 square feet than an apartment that is 800 square feet. It's much easier for us to do what we do. So we're asking the client where they're located, what type of structure, what type of pest. Okay, so now they tell me, well, we got roaches. Well, is it a little tiny roach when you turn on the lights at night? Or is it a large roach that you're finding around? Well, that lets us know they either have American cockroaches or they're going to have German roaches. There's not 2 of those here. And now we know we got a German roach problem. When did you first notice it? Well, 2 months ago. All right, what have you done so far? Well, we've done this and that and the other, but we haven't been able to solve it. And that tells us how bad that infestation is. How often are you seeing them? Well, I turn on the light at night and I see about 10 or 12. All right, so we know what we're dealing with. And I've completely consulted my client on what their problem is. When that's a different client and we have a different process, a different sales process for a roach client than you do when a client calls you and says, hey, I want you to come and, we want somebody to come and do our lawn care. Oh, well, that's different. What kind of lawn do you have? And we start going into the process. And what I usually want to know is where the cultural practices are. Because here's what my competition is selling. My competition will send out a consultant with quotes in between. He's nothing more than a salesperson with a contract that's pre-filled. He's looking to get signed. They get paid on commission. And that's where my competition is. And most of my competition have lowballed it so they can penetrate a market and pretty much destroy it and own it. And then the clients buy, but after 6 months, the lawn looks worse than when they first started. The lawn has weeds. The lawn has diseases. Their shrubs have chlorosis, and their plants look terrible. But they've bought the price. They bought a 6-month contract. They bought a 7 service contract for the year, and it's due. And they want to switch companies because they're tired. It's terrible. That's who we have as a client, but they want the service, and we start talking to them about, well, how often are you mowing it? Well, we're mowing it every 2 weeks, and then now in the winter we're mowing it once a month. Well, that could be a problem. How short are you mowing it? Oh, I tell my landscaper I want it short. I don't want a tall-looking lawn. I said, that's a problem, because that specific lawn that you have has to be between 3 and 4 inches if you got a St. Augustine lawn. And by cutting it short, you're actually creating more diseases and more deficiency, which requires a lot more product to be used to keep it looking nice. And as a matter of fact, it's never really going to look perfect. And they start talking about, well, what about your irrigation? Is your irrigation? Well, it's kind of a mess right now, and we have to fix it. Okay, do you have a contractor that's going to go look at it? No, we have to get one. Okay, you need to do that, because without the proper irrigation, I can't make that lawn look good. You got to understand that chemistry is chemotherapy. Nobody looks good after chemotherapy. Our chemicals don't make your lawn pretty. Chemicals kill things. We kill bacteria, we kill diseases. Fertilizer is not going to make it pretty if you don't have good irrigation. So we need to work on that. Is somebody handling your irrigation now? Is the landscaper handling your irrigation? Well, nobody is. Okay, well, then that's what we do. We handle your irrigation for you. We make sure we give you a 1-hour consultation when we go out there, and we're going to look at everything. We're going to look with a soil moisture meter, and we're going to test your landscape. Has anybody ever done that? No, nobody has. Okay, we got to do that. And, one of the things that ticks me off, and they'll start going off about, is that the other company that we used to have before, they used to use granular fertilizer, and this company is using liquid. I said, well, there's a reason for that. How much were you paying? Well, I was paying this much, and these companies came in, and their price was a lot better, and they told me they could get it pretty, and they had, and we believed that. I said, listen, it's twice the labor and twice the product. Fertilizer is very expensive. So you've got twice the labor and twice the product. Now, they're understanding that this is costing a lot more than what they currently have gotten with anybody else, because nobody in our industry wants to do this. And I can tell, I've told this, and I tell it publicly. I said, guys, if you want a nice looking lawn, this is the process you got to go through with your client in order to ensure that they're going to have what they want. He says, yeah, but we can't control the irrigation. Our technician is not going to control the irrigation. Well, if he doesn't, somebody has to. The landscaper doesn't know because he's putting water every day. Let me ask you a question. Is your lawn shredded? Like if you look at your lawn right now, is it shredded? Yeah, well, he's not sharpening his blade. And I'm consulting my client on all the things that he has to do in order for our service to work, because if he doesn't do that, we're still going to end up with an unhappy client. So I say, this is what we have to go through. We're going to go do a consultation. You got to get your mowing at least, if you can't afford a weekly mowing, it has to be spot on every 2 weeks, year around, even in the winter. It'll still grow with our service because we're going to be fertilizing. And if you cut it right and you mow it right at the right height, it'll still be growing. So you need to get that fixed. And we're going to check your irrigation system, and we're going to inspect all your heads and nozzles and make sure whatever's not working, we're going to give you a report. You're going to take it to your contractor. They're going to fix it. If it's just adjusting heads and nozzles, we will do that for you. We will adjust your timer seasonally because you need more water in the summer, less in the winter. We're going to adjust that for you. Right now, they're already understanding that this is not your average service. They've never been treated this way before. They've never been educated this way before. We're selling Bentleys. We're selling Bentleys to people who want to buy Bentleys. And we're selling the results. If the customer listens to us, then we go and we find out there's improper pruning, improper trimming. This all needs to be fixed. If the landscaper can't do it, they got to switch landscapers. They got to find somebody who can do it right so they can get the results they want. It's not that easy. You see, so now they understand that we do this in about, guys, this sounds complicated. We do this in about 10 minutes. So what is easier, to consult a client professionally with the knowledge you have over the phone for 10 minutes and then give them what they need and quote that price at the end? When you have explained, I said, does this all make sense? Is this something you're willing to do? If the client says, yeah, that's just too much trouble. I just want somebody to come and spray my lawn. I simply let the client know at that point in time in the sales process, listen, I don't think we're a fit for you. We're not that kind of company. And, reality is that unless you commit to getting these things fixed, unless you commit to doing a lot of these things, nobody's ever going to give you what you want. It's kind of like you want insurance, but you want dental included in eyewear, and you want no deductible, and you want no copay. You're going to pay a fortune for that. On top of that, if you're drinking, and smoking, and you're not taking care of your health and you're not exercising, you're never going to be in good health, no matter how good of a health plan you have. So I don't think we're really going to be a good fit for you. Well, can you tell me roughly how much it costs? I says, I can't. I don't even know how big your property is. I don't know how big. I can't give you a quote. So if you want a quote, here's, I need your name, address, phone number, and we will quote it. Our minimum price starts out at this much per month. And they got to decide right there and then, because I know who they have. I know that price is double what they're paying now based on their average pricing. I know who all my competition is in Miami. And I'm telling you that we sell an exclusive service to people who want the real results. And you have to be now when the customer says, yes, hey, that sounds great. Yes, we're going to do that. I really want this lawn to look nice. We're willing to pay what it costs. We're kind of people that pay for what we want. And people tell me honestly, they know it. I know when they tell me what part of town they live in, that everybody's going to know when they say they live there that they got money. They can afford it. And I said, listen, give me the information. I take the information, call them back in 5-10 minutes. And I said, look, our estimate is this, and it's going to be between this and this every month. Based on the amount of square foot you have, it depends on how many palm trees you have. It depends how many square feet of shrub you have. But your quote is going to be between this and this. If you can swing that, I can make an appointment for you to go, give you your consultation, and get started that same day. Does that sound fair to you? And I'm either going to get, yes, come on over, or let me talk it over with my wife. Let me talk it over with my husband. Fine. You already got your email. I'm going to put this in writing, and I'm going to send you all the terms and conditions. And all the things that I've discussed with you on the phone are in writing. And if this is something that works for you, you give me a call, and I'll invest an hour in you. Our normal horticultural consultation is $225. I will give it to you for free if you're going to buy from us. And what if we just want the consultation? It's $225. That finds out who is a serious customer and who is just price shopping and they don't know what they want. But I guarantee you that after I'm done consulting them and I'm done telling them all about their plants on the phone, and I can tell them, you have this plant, right? And this plant looks like this right now and it has this color, right? Here's the reason why it looks like that. Because I've been doing this darn thing for 11 years and I got 30 years of sales experience. You need to educate your client first and properly price educate them on what they expect to pay in order so when you present that price at the end, the customer is either going to say yes or no. And I tell them, I said, listen, just be honest with me. Is this something you can swing? And they say, yeah, we can afford it. Okay, it's done. If they say, well, it's a lot more than we wanted to pay. Okay, yeah, well, you understand why, right? Yeah, I understand why your price. And, we're just going to keep looking and we're going to do something else. We really can't afford you. And that's what I want. I want them to be honest with me and say, I can't afford you. I'm not willing to pay this. Or yes, I am. And then that way we're both off the hook. Because I'm not going to follow up with them if they told me they're not interested, they can't pay and they can't afford it. If they tell me, look, we can, okay, I'll shoot you over the invoice and I'll follow up with you in a couple of days. And then if I call them in a couple of days, or they usually call me first. Yeah, I spoke with my wife tonight. We want to go ahead and do it. Really it is, but you need a process. You really need a process to educate your client of why it is. The biggest complaint I get with apartment buildings is people, they're already paying between $1 and $3, and they're not going to pay anymore. No matter how good my presentation is, the board isn't going to approve it. Other times, they've already been to 3 or 4 companies. Nobody's giving them results. And I say, here's why you're not going to get the results, guys. And I give you a consultation. I says, you're not going to get the results because, quite frankly, you're not really paying what it really costs, or you're not going to pay what it costs. You keep, in the sales process, you keep asking everyone for the same thing, and everybody's giving you a price based on what you're telling them you want. The problem is, here's what you need. And I can either make them see it or not. Usually, when it's just a price-only thing, I'm not going to make them see it. And I got to move on because I can't invest hours of my day in driving around town giving everybody a quote that wants one for free when what they're really wanting is a consultation. There's a difference. I can give you a quote over the phone. I can't give you a consultation. And I can't invest in you my talent and my time and my education because I'm highly educated in what I do. I'm a professional. And so I can't do it unless you're committed. And so that's the way I handle the whole sales process. And I hope this has helped you to see things maybe a little bit differently than you normally have, and it helps you grow. And that's the most important thing, that it helps you grow. Hey, folks, I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.